We've all been there, right? Staring at that project roadmap, that PowerPoint slide, or maybe that Confluence page that's supposed to be our North Star. But what if that guide is, well, what if it's broken? Today we're going to dig into a really powerful new way to think about managing big, complex projects, one that's designed to help them actually succeed instead of just collapsing under their own.
So let me just ask you this straight up. Is your project roadmap really helping you? Or is it just a pretty picture that might be hiding some really critical, dangerous risks? It's a tough question, I know. And for a lot of us, the answer is kind of uncomfortable.
And here's the heart of the problem. Most of our roadmaps are only a pixel deep. You know what I mean. They look great from a distance, but they're completely static. They have no depth, no context, which is exactly what you need for the kind of complex, dynamic projects we're all tackling these days. They're just not telling the whole story.
Okay, so let's really break this down. Let's get into exactly why these static plans are pretty much designed to fail in a world that is, anything but static.
When you look closely, these static roadmaps fail in some really specific ways. For one, there's no narrative, right? There's no why behind any of the phases. They don't explain how different teams are supposed to interact. And then, oh my gosh, there's the classic problem. Is this even the latest version? Is this roadmap final v3? And maybe most importantly for today, these documents are totally invisible to our tools. They're not machine readable, which means we can't automate them, we can't validate them, we can't analyze them, nothing.
And I want to be super clear here. These are not just little pet peeves. For any kind of large-scale project, these small gaps and inefficiencies, they compound. They stack on top of each other, creating this cascade of misalignments and risks that can, and often do, lead to complete and total project failure. It's like death by 1,000 paper cuts.
So, if the old way is so busted, what's the fix? Well, this brings us to a new methodology, and it's built on a really cool metaphor. What if you thought of your project plan as a compiler?
This quote right here from the source material absolutely nails it. See, just like a software compiler finds all the bugs and messy bits in your code before it ever runs, this model-driven approach finds the gaps, the misalignments, and the missing pieces in your plan before they become huge, real-world problems. It's all about enforcing coherence.
And this chart just lays out the shift perfectly. I mean, look at this. We're moving away from static PowerPoints and moving to living, versioned models. We're going from finding gaps when it's way too late to catching them super early. We go from artifacts that AI can't even see to ones that are totally machine readable. We're replacing a fragile single point of failure with a tough, robust single source of truth. It's a total transformation.
Okay, so what does this model thing actually look like? It's not as complicated as it sounds. It really breaks down into 3 core pieces. These are the building blocks for a coherent, intelligent system. So let's walk through these pillars. First up, you've got the roadmap model. This is where you treat your whole plan, the work, the dependencies, who's doing what, as interconnected code. Second is the domain model. Think of this like a shared dictionary. That way, when you say user, everyone, and I mean everyone, including your AI tools, knows exactly what that means. No ambiguity. And third, and this one is a real game changer, is the competence model. This maps out what people can actually do, their proven skills, not just what it says on their business card. And this is the fundamental shift right here. It completely changes the conversation. You stop asking about rigid roles like who's the project manager, and you start asking a much better, much more accurate question. What specific skills and capabilities do we need to actually get this done? It's about what you can do, not who you are.
This brings us to a really critical cultural point, because you see, this isn't just about being a little more efficient. This is about building an organization that can actually survive in a complex world by valuing expertise over hierarchy. It's about survival. The whole goal here is to shift authority away from what we call positional power, who's got the fanciest title or who talks the loudest in meetings, and move it towards confirmed competence. The big decisions have to be driven by real expertise, by the people who actually have the relevant, up-to-date knowledge.
And trust me, the stakes here are unbelievably high. History is just littered with these tragic examples of what happens when this goes wrong. From the Korean air crashes, where a culture of deference literally prevented co-pilots from speaking up, to the Challenger disaster, where engineers' warnings were just steamrolled by management. And we even see it in the smaller, everyday stuff, like the mechanic manager whose outdated technical opinion just torpedoes months of solid work. It's all the same dangerous pattern.
The analogy to a computing cluster is just perfect.
A manager's job is to orchestrate the system, to manage the work, not to do the work themselves. The second they dive in and start acting like an individual contributor, they stop managing the system, and they become its most dangerous single point of failure. Sun Tzu figured this out centuries ago. An organization that ignores its own experts, that doesn't actually know its own capabilities, well, it's choosing not to know itself. And that, in any competitive environment, is a recipe for disaster. So, let's bring this all home. How do we actually survive all this modern complexity? The absolute key is to understand that this is a fundamental shift in how we think. This is not just about getting another piece of software. I absolutely love this quote. The Stone Age didn't end because they ran out of stones, right? It ended because a better model for building things, a better technology, came along. We are at that same kind of inflection point. The old tools, our static roadmaps, our rigid hierarchies, they just aren't good enough for this new reality. It's kind of like how democracies eventually replaced monarchies. Not because monarchies were evil, but because societies just got too complex for one person to run the whole show. We need new structures for our organizations too. The old, brittle systems of centralized power just can't handle it. And what replaces them isn't chaos. It's a new, smarter kind of structure.
So if you take away anything from all this, let it be these key points. 1. Treat your project artifacts as code. That means versioned, validated, and machine-readable. 2. Build a living system of interconnected models. 3. Shift your culture so that decision-making flows from competence, not position. And 4. Use structure as your weapon to make complexity manageable.
And I really want to stress this last point, because I get it. Tool fatigue is a real thing. This is not about adding one more tool to your stack. It's about adopting a whole new methodology for thinking and for working. The tools, they just enable this new way of thinking. You have to get the philosophy first.
Which really just leaves us with one last kind of challenging question for you. Take a hard, honest look at your team, your projects, your company's culture, and ask yourself this. Is your organization built on real competence, or is it just running on habit? Because the answer to that question might just determine your future. Thanks for joining me.